Well, greetings to the web. It's me, Miss Habanero Pepper, and today I'm doing another book review, Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. Now, I'd like to give you a bit of context into how I found this book. We actually had to read it in third grade when I was in elementary school, and the first book was really interesting to me, but the library didn't exactly have the other four books, so I had to wait until middle school to finish the series. As I said in my previous videos, I like introducing people into new series, new genres, and I think that this is also a really good introduction into the fantasy genre, specifically more of the dark fantasy kind of genre. It's bordering on there. I'd like to show you the cover really quick. Yeah, this is the same cover that I saw when I was in third grade. There are a lot more variations, so you may find those on Amazon in case you try to buy the book, maybe check it out from the library. So, let's begin by talking about this book. Obviously, the titular character is named Gregor. He's the protagonist. The story begins when his sister, Boots, falls into what we call the Underland. Anybody who's living topsoil, or here where we live, is called an Overlander. He ends up in this crazy world called Regalia, where there are gigantic cockroaches, rats, what have you, all kinds of creepy crawlies everywhere. And at first, he's simply trying to get out of this world. But then he finds out that his dad, who's been missing for, now I don't remember the exact number, but 2 years, something days, and something hours, he finds out that his dad actually fell into the underworld when he went missing. And he takes it upon himself to follow this prophecy of gray thing that the Regalians talk about in order to find his dad. Of course, it turns out he's a lot more involved in the Regalian prophecies than he knows, which is why there's a whole book series about how each one involves him, and it records his adventures as the warrior of Regalia. As you know, I like to start off with the details, so I'm going to start off with the dialogue. Gregor, when you look in the book, he's an 11-year-old boy at the start of the series. And I feel that this perfectly portrays the whole elementary, still kind of trying to find ourselves, trying to understand who we are and what we're interested in. I really feel that Miss Collin has portrayed that really well with Gregor. It was believable. He wasn't this, oh, I'm a warrior and I'm totally going to defeat all of the rats. Awesome. No, he was a realistic kid. He had doubts, he had talents. He played in the school band. His class got to play at Carnegie Hall. And he was a really good big brother, not only to Boots, as he took care of her throughout this crazy adventure, but also to Lizzie. It's not at the start of the series, this is during the summer, that he had the opportunity to go to camp, but he refused it because somebody had to take care of their grandmother, who probably had Alzheimer's based on the description in the book, although it could be something different, and to take care of Boots. Because as Gregor's dad did go missing before the start of the series, Gregor's mom had to take on the jobs, providing for the family. And so Gregor kind of steps up as the big brother to help along with the family. And I think that portrays his selflessness, which I really appreciate seeing in characters in books. When a kid reads that, they kind of want to model themselves after what that character does. Like Hermione Granger in Harry Potter, for example. She's a bibliophile. I did not read Harry Potter until I got into middle school, but nonetheless, the fact that she was so interested in books, the fact that she was so prioritized with knowledge, that is a really good example of what kids can try to emulate. Selflessness, knowledge, etc. Then, next, I would like to talk about the characters. Obviously, I described Gregor a little bit. He's a selfless character, even though he does have his own flaws. Sometimes he's selfish in terms of what he thinks, what he feels. When he first meets the Regalians, he's kind of skeptical about the whole situation. I mean, they just fall into an underground cavern, and there are gigantic cockroaches, and then this princess, who I'm about to talk about, she's another main character, or Luxa. Luxa, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Luxa. I'll go with Luxa. She's super arrogant. I don't like this, but at the same time, this is my reality, so hey, I'm just gonna deal with it. It is what it is, which honestly is the theme of this pandemic, really, when we think about it. So, selflessness, he's courageous, he stands up for what he believes in, what he knows is right, and he's loyal. Despite the fact that he's not exactly sure if his dad is still safe in the Nars or the rats, Nars is what they call him in the underworld, in the Nars cavern, he says, you know what? I'm not even sure if my dad's still alive. I hope he is. That's why I've been hoping, and I really want to save him. I'm not the warrior you think I am. I don't believe I'm the warrior, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save my dad. And then it turns out that, again, he's involved in the prophecies that are in Regalia, which is why the book series exists. Now I'd like to talk about the next main character, Luxa. She is the princess of Regalia, this underground city that Gregor falls into. And I'm going to be frank, when they describe her in the book, she is kind of weird. You have to understand, skin, it's colored the way it is because of melanin. We absorb sunlight. Sunlight is kind of like absorbed into the skin, and the skin darkens on how much sunlight exposure there is. Of course, there's also genetics and what have you. But because there's no sun down there, every single Regalian is pale to the point that you can see them like a walking circulatory system kind of a thing. So it's a little weird. They all have purple eyes, what have you. And at first, when we meet her in the book, she kind of tries to punk out Gregor's younger sister, Boots, which is kind of mean because she's about 2. She's a toddler. It's kind of mean to just be teasing her like that. And we think she's arrogant and we don't like her. But throughout the book, we understand the kind of dedication she has to her people. Of course, that involves prejudice towards Nars because they're viewed as the antagonists in this book. But we see how wise and compassionate she is. When Gregor says that he doesn't want to go without his sister Boots on the trip to rescue his father, the council says that he should leave his sister in Regalia, to which he's worried. Not that he doesn't trust Regalians. I mean, he doesn't really trust the Regalians, but they're better than whatever could be out there that could risk a threat to him and his sister. But at the same time, he's worried that what might happen if he's away, what could happen to her? She would get lonely, she might get sick, etc., etc. And Luxa, despite the fact that she does not like Gregor, saying she expresses both verbally, explicitly, and implicitly, she actually supports his desire to have his sister with him on the trip. I don't remember the exact words again, but she said, if I had a sister, and if I were you, I would never take my eyes off her. Which obviously shows a testament to who she is as a character. That is further developed throughout the series, especially in Gregor and the Curse of the Warmbloods, which I believe is the 3rd book in the series. Yes. Also, I would like to now begin talking about one of my favorite characters, Rip Red. And I'm going to note now, even though the Nars are the antagonists in the series, one particular Nar actually becomes more of a, well, I wouldn't really say tri-antagonist or anti-hero. You know what? Tri-antagonist. He's a little bit of hero and a little bit of villain. Rip Red is a very complex, interesting character. We first meet him, he's known to be this general of King Gorger of the Nars army, and he's kicked out for disobeying orders. He's sarcastic, he's wisecracking. Obviously, he knows how to handle himself in a battle and protect himself. But he also tends to be the level-headed guy who keeps everybody on track for the course of the quest. There's one particular instance in which the entire group is grossed out. You'll note in the prophecy that it says that 8 will be left when we count up the dead. There are 12 people who are involved on the quest, and one of them, when they first meet the group, immediately dies. They are a spider, and their other spider companion actually By the way, I'm just telling you right now, warning. If you have any little children in the room, please cover their ears because spiders, as you might know, they need nutrients by eating other insects. And so, because the Erewhon literally had to run away in order to join the quest, they suck out the insides of their deceased compatriot. Okay, are the little kids good? They didn't hear anything? All right, cool. You can uncover their ears now. It's fine. And while everyone's grossed out, Rip Red simply says, you know what? They came, they joined the quest. We just have to get this over with. Get over it. Cry yourself a river, build a bridge, get over it. We gotta move on. I really appreciate his level-headedness. I actually had a different value for what you can learn from the book, but if there's anything that you can learn from Rip Red, it's how to get things done in difficult situations. You can't just hesitate. I mean, obviously you have to think things through a bit, but when the going gets tough, you gotta make a split decision, you gotta get to it. It's the same for tests, it's the same for quizzes, what have you. And finally, the world building. Now, Gregor and the Overlander starts in New York City, which is kind of sad because usually whenever you have stories like these, they always start in major cities like Percy Jackson, for example. But when you move into Regalia, and again, as I said in my first video, you're trying to write about a world that no one's ever seen before, no one's ever been in before, I think she makes this world really cool to interact in. Now, granted, if you're claustrophobic, being in an underground cavern might not sound like a good idea to you, and believe me, I can understand that. But the way that she writes the characters, the way she describes the underground cavern with this beautiful gray silverish city with lights, it's put all around. It's really nice. It really emphasizes the idea of this dark fantasy kingdom that's struggling to survive in a realm that's been at war for hundreds of years, probably not thousands. They got down there not as long ago as I thought. I'd have to look back in the series, but yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, and I'm going to close up now with one value you can learn from this book, the value of responsibility. Now, when Gregor is noted as the warrior from the Prophecy of Grey in Regalia, at first he keeps denying it because he's an 11-year-old kid. I mean, some of you who may or may not be watching this video, the toughest responsibilities you have to take on right now is doing the chores, making sure you get good grades in school, being a good kid and not breaking any rules, such things like that. But he literally had as the fate of an entire realm on his hands. The fact that he didn't just start freaking out is kind of impressive. But obviously it's why he tried to deny it at first. But when he finds the connection it has with possibly saving his dad, he begins to take on those responsibilities. He begins to take on the responsibility of taking care of Boots like he did at the beginning of the book. He takes on the responsibility to lead the group in his own way. And then finally at the end of the book, when he makes a big decision that possibly changes the entire fate of the quest that's put into his hands, he takes it with a sense of finality that even if this isn't the right thing to do, I'm doing this for the good of all of these people who I've met. I might not have liked them in the beginning, but I feel that I need to try to do my best to make sure that everything ends well for both sides. So, without further ado, I'd like to close this off with a note. I would actually like to explore books with more diverse authors, more diverse settings, which is why I would actually like to try next week to read a piece written by my dad. I might have noted this earlier in the first video, I don't remember if I did, but he's a writer just like I am. He actually has a few pieces that I like to read to you. He has a group, UVDA, I forgot what the acronym stood for, something about volunteers, but I think I can link something to that in the description of my YouTube video. It's connected to Messenger, I believe. So check out my blog if you possibly could. I'll link that one too in the bottom of the description video. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!